Rumor has it that Ford is going to be making another four-door Mustang, and I'm here for it. Before all the purists jump into the comment section and say, they can't do this, this is blasphemous, they've already done it once. And successfully. For 2 straight years, 2024 and 2025, the Mustang Mach-E outsold the Mustang. What does that tell you? 4 doors work, and people want them. It doesn't matter if it's a full EV like a Mustang Mach-E or a gas-powered V8 like a Dodge Charger. Remember that 20 years ago when Dodge decided to make a 4-door Charger and people were like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? And here we are 20 years later and people want a Hemi back in that sedan once again. People want performance, they want fun, and they also want practicality. And right now today, it doesn't matter if it's a crossover or a sedan, people are demanding this, they want it. So why now? After all these years, Ford teasing a 4-door Mustang, a Sportback, a car that could go head-to-head with that Dodge Charger, a car that could theoretically be a better choice over some luxury brands that were building Grand Coupes and Sportbacks for the past 10 years. Well, it might have something to do with Chevrolet. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that the Camaro was returning, but this time as a 4-door with a V8 and rumored to have a manual. With buyers looking at purchasing affordable cars, hatchbacks, sedans, crossovers, now seems to be the right time. But Ford is also unveiling a number of vehicles over the next few years. In fact, when this Ford Mustang was announced with 4 doors, dealers were also given a preview of a crossover coming in at around $25,000 that will be hybrid. But probably more importantly for all of you is, what about this 4-door Mustang? Well, let's dive into what we know so far and what it might look like, what it might be in 2028 or 2029 when it arrives at dealers. In an article written by Road and Track, we got a pretty good idea of what was shown to dealer representatives, and we got a major leak from some of those representatives as to what these products are going to look like, more specifically this Ford Mustang, and just how far along Ford really is here, because this wasn't just renders, this was an actual prototype, an early prototype, but a prototype nonetheless. Ford is once again allegedly showing off the 4-door Mustang to dealers, and this time the automaker is apparently spilling some new details in the process. At the same time, Ford Motor Company has also allegedly previewed the return of an affordable SUV to its lineup after it unceremoniously killed the Ford Escape. This news comes via reporting from Automotive News, which spoke to unnamed dealer representatives in attendance at the Las Vegas event. Starting with the Mustang, the vehicle showed to dealers was reportedly characterized as an early prototype and drew comparisons to the Porsche Panamera in size and design. That means we could be working with a Sportback-style vehicle, hopefully one with a cavernous cargo area. Alleged promises from Ford executives about the 4-door Mustang are setting expectations high. Its starting price tag is supposedly going to be under $40,000, and it will also offer a 0 to 60 time below 4 seconds. Now, we don't expect the under $40,000 version to be the fast version. If we're going to speculate, the 4-cylinder EcoBoost version of the 4-door Mustang will be under 40 grand. But you'll likely need to upgrade to a bigger, likely V8 engine to achieve 60 miles per hour that quickly. A base Mustang GT Coupe starts at $48,795, so we suspect the 4-door version would start at a similar price. Separate reporting from the Wall Street Journal stated some sources claimed the Mustang 4-door would offer a hybrid option as well. The last alleged Mustang tidbit we're being fed from the latest dealer meeting was some intel on the rear seat space, which is reportedly better than what is offered in a Panamera. Unfortunately, besting the Panamera isn't exactly world-beating when it comes to rear seat space. Porsche's large executive sedan has enough room for an adult to get comfortable, but it's no utility king. In other words, we're glad to hear the 4-door Mustang will reportedly have more space. So essentially, what we can gather here is that this new Ford Mustang 4-door is going to be the size of the Porsche Panamera, which, to put that into perspective, is about 13 inches longer than the Ford Mustang Mach-E I'm sitting next to today. So a big car, a very big car if that's going to be the case. It's It's going to start below $40,000, so most likely you're going to have that EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine on the lower end. That could also be hybridized as well. Then you're going to have a possible V8 engine that will be hybrid, and there's more on that to come because Ford is developing one for their entry into the World Endurance Championship and Le Mans next year. So we could see that 5.4-liter V8, that Coyote-derived V8, under the hood of this Ford Mustang 4-door. And then the last thing here is it's going to be more practical than a Porsche Panamera. Well, one thing we do know for certain is that with that Porsche Panamera, that second row seating area is kind of tight. Inside the Ford Mustang Mach-E we have today, you're looking at right around 38 inches of legroom. So Ford has already proven they can give you a practical second row for a vehicle of this size. And again, looking at dimensions, if it is comparable to a Panamera, that Ford Mustang sedan is going to be about 10 to 13 inches longer than what we have here out of the Mach-E. It's also going to be built on a completely different platform than what we have here with this Mach-E. But the Porsche Panamera comes in at 33 inches of legroom. So it's not like this is going to be a major feat. And with the Dodge Charger, you have about 40 inches of legroom. So anywhere between 38 and 40 would be acceptable, actually might even be exceptional in this market, considering it's going to have a V8, it's going to be sporty, might also even have more of a hybrid setup too on the lower end for that efficiency. Now with that starting price of around $40,000, allegedly, because most likely you're going to be looking at one of those situations where it comes in at $39,900, that still undercuts the Dodge Charger by $10,000. And with that Dodge Charger currently, we only have an inline 6. Now, most likely we're not going to be getting a V8 at $40,000. Not going to happen. But why is this important? It has nothing to do with performance, actually, because from Ford, and they won't admit this publicly, they wish they had the Ford Fusion back. They wish they had that in the lineup because a lot of buyers are looking for a sedan, and Ford went in the full SUV direction. It was a mistake, and they know that. With the Ford Mustang, for one, you had the Mustang nameplate. It's going to draw in a lot of attention, great for marketing. But on that lower end, at around $40,000, they could drop in a hybrid 4-cylinder engine and give you that efficiency, drawing in the type of buyer that's looking for an economical daily driver, not necessarily a crossover. Then on the higher end, most likely you're looking at that V8 coming in at around $50,000. Once again, priced similar to that Dodge Charger, but you get a V8 instead of that inline 6. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys an engine under the hood for this Mustang Mach-E. But I do want to talk about this hybrid V8 and the engine options that are possible for this new sedan that Ford is developing. Because right now, they are working on a 5.4-liter Coyote-derived V8 for their hybrid hypercar that will be racing in Le Mans next year. I highly doubt that that will be dropped into the first model year for this Mustang sedan. I just don't see that happening, mostly because it's going to be a quick turnaround developing this hybrid V8 and throwing it into a production car. However, we do know for a fact there likely will be a 4-cylinder somewhere along the lines in this lineup because you're going to get that on the lower end. And then with that V8, it just comes down to, is it the 5-liter or is it going to be that 5.4? Are we going to have that option with the 5-liter and the manual transmission? These are all questions we're going to need answers to over the next few years because it sounds like it will be arriving in 2028 or early 2029. So we have about 2 years to wait here and 2 more years of development. But if we can get a 5-liter V8 with a manual out of this sedan or this future sedan, that's going to be phenomenal and we'll go head-to-head with that Chevrolet Camaro, starting up a new era of muscle car rivalries. And then just for fun, let's speculate about the interior because a lot of people do complain about the Ford Mustang interior. That's a bit too cheap, bit too tacky, too tech-focused. Well, this sedan is arriving in 2028 or 2029, which just coincidentally is around the same time that there would be a mid-cycle refresh for the S650. So we don't even know what this car looks like, what a 2-door Mustang will look like in 2028 or 2029, nor do we know what the technology is going to be like. Now, one thing we have noticed here with Ford lately is that they are moving in the Android Auto direction, so I would speculate that we are going to see a larger touchscreen with the Android-based software. And then it comes down to build quality. Are we going to have soft touch materials on the door panels, on the dashboard, or is it still going to be more of this mainstream, I don't want to call it an economical sports coupe, but is it going to be like that? Is it going to feel like a muscle car on the inside? That's a big question. That's going to be something that Ford really has to think about Because yes, all right, Dodge has a cheap interior, but this car is supposed to encompass an entire market, not just enthusiasts. It's supposed to draw in people who might want an affordable daily driver and also a car that might be efficient. So they have to really think this out, and I'm sure they're already at that point already with a prototype already being shown to dealer representatives. But I do think, though, that what this car is going to be like for the interior, for the exterior, is nothing like we currently see out of the current Ford Mustang. The bigger unknown now is, does Ford know how to make a sedan anymore after all these years? Can they make a fun car that isn't a crossover? With the Ford Mustang platform, over the last few generations, they have proven that a muscle car isn't just for straight line purposes, but rather as a grand tour. The S650 handles so well. It's a great car, it really is, for $50,000. I don't know how people get those things loose and run people over at car shows because they handle phenomenally well. And if they can do that with a four-door, not only can they compete with Chevrolet and Dodge, maybe even Cadillac with the CT5, but theoretically, they could offer a car that's far and away better than what the Germans are offering right now, especially looking at the S5 from Audi, looking at what BMW is doing. And then you have Mercedes, which I don't even know what to say with Mercedes. But I really think they're trying to stick at the Porsche for some reason. I don't know why. Which is why I think with this whole leaking of the Ford Mustang four-door, bringing up the Porsche Panamera out of all cars, even Ford themselves say they want to build an entire lineup of off-road vehicles that would be the Porsche of the off-road. It's almost as if they're trying to create a rivalry. And they know that Porsche is doing really well in hybrid hypercar right now, in the WEC and IMSA. And then obviously, looking at GT3, the 911 isn't going away anytime soon. So I think Ford is trying to manufacture a rivalry here. And I do think that if Ford can get this right, they can offer a V8 with a manual, or even just a good V8 with a decent transmission, that it would undercut all the luxury brands at $80,000, $90,000. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I know some people are going to be like, oh, they can't call it a Mustang. They should call it the Falcon. The Falcon doesn't have a lot of brand recognition in the US. Unless you know Aussie Motorsport with the V8 supercars, no one really knows about the Falcon name, at least under the age of 45. So keeping the Mustang name is the right choice, looking at the success out of the Mach-E. And just as someone who wants to see internal combustion survive, this upcoming rivalry with Chevrolet and Dodge is going to be so fun. It's going to be enjoyable. And I don't want to rush the time, but I'm looking forward to 2028.